Hi, my name's Penny. Today I wanted to talk about the books that I read in December, although that's not completely true because I already posted a video in the middle of December because I was reading so many books, wrapping up the first half of December, so I just want to talk about the ones at the end of December, which isn't actually that many because Christmas. But I think in the last video I had read 5 things, and then in the second half of December I read another 3 things, so that's 8 things in total, which I'm pretty happy with. So the first of those that I finished was The First 15 Lives of Harry August by Claire North. Now I actually listened to this on audiobook. I've just been starting to get into audiobooks, and to be honest, I kind of regret listening to it in audiobook. The First 15 Lives of Harry August is about this man called Harry August, not surprisingly, who when he dies he gets reborn and he lives his life again, but every time he lives his life again he still has the memories from his previous lives. There's also a whole bunch of other people who live their lives in a similar way. Then at the end of one of his lives, this young girl comes to him and says, "The world is ending, it's getting sooner and sooner, we don't know how to stop it, you need to try and do something." And I found the whole end of the world part of the story really interesting and exciting. There was a lot of action, but unfortunately what it tended to do is every second chapter it would jump back into a past life and explain some stuff there that sometimes was relevant, other times didn't really seem that relevant. But because I was listening to it on audiobook, and it's a little bit harder to pay attention in audiobook, or at least I find it harder to pay attention, I often lost track of where he was or who he was talking to or what was going on, and I don't know if that's entirely on me or the book, but I do think if it had been a physical book I probably would have been less confused. If I'm honest, I also didn't really like the narrator, and something that I've learned from that book is now I always listen to the sample, because it's not that the narrator was necessarily bad, just that his voice didn't agree with me, and so I immediately disliked the character just because of his voice, which isn't fair at all, but that's what happened. I did actually really enjoy the way it explored technology and how technological advances impact humanity and our kind of capability of dealing with that technology and the way that it changes our lives. In the end, I think I gave it 3 stars. It was definitely an interesting concept, but I'm not sure if it's just the audiobook or the story in general, but I found the pacing a bit off and I just couldn't quite get into it. So then the next thing that I finished was Janie Face to Face by Caroline B. Cooney, which is the fifth last book in the Face on the Milk Carton series. So the Face on the Milk Carton series is about this girl called Janie who at lunchtime just sees this missing child ad on a milk carton and recognizes it as herself when she was a child. Mild spoilers, it turns out that she has been kidnapped, but not exactly. Throughout the series it's really interesting. It gives a lot of different perspectives and shows how one act when she was a child has long-term impacts on the family around her, both her kidnapped family and her biological family, as well as on her. And this final book is just kind of like wrapping everything up, which in some ways I think it did a really good job. It gave lots of different people's perspectives. It still had that mystery aspect that the first story had. It had a little bit of action and excitement and quite a good build-up. But in other ways I found a little bit disappointing. I really wanted Janie to become like really strong and independent and go out and find out who she was regardless of this kidnapping. But I guess in some ways you could argue that that happened, but it just didn't happen how I wanted it to happen. So I was a little bit disappointed in it, but mainly because Janie's life choices don't align with my life choices or my life values, not because it was a bad story. I still really enjoyed it, and also I'm really glad that now I can tick that series off, because I've been trying to finish off series, and that's one of the series that I have managed to tick off this year. So yeah, good work. Good work, me, from last year. So then the last book that I read of the year was one that I actually have a physical copy of, and that is The Shadow of Death, which is the 4th book in the Thirst series. Now this Thirst series used to be called The Last Vampire series. Oh, it's by Christopher Pike, I forgot to say that. But the original Last Vampire series was 6 books, and actually the original books were like about this big and this thick. Maybe a bit thicker than these ones, but about this size. And then the new books are like this. So he wrapped up the first 6 books into, I think, the first 2 of these books. And then he wrote 3 more books. Complicated. But so I originally thought that there were only 6 books when I was a teenager. I read the 6 books. I loved them. They were some of my favorite books. There's this girl who turns out to be a vampire called Alyssa Pern. Potentially the last vampire. It has a lot of religious philosophy, but also a lot of action, and I really enjoyed them. These books, the newer ones, get a lot more into the religious philosophy, but then take it a step further and begin to get very science fiction-y, but in a very religious and quite unrealistic way, in my opinion. To be honest, I didn't really enjoy this, and I almost wish that I had never found out that there were more books. And I'm even tempted, I bought all of these news copies because I love the Last Vampire series so much, but I'm tempted to get rid of these ones and try and source the original 6 Last Vampire books again, because those are the ones that I really enjoyed. And the covers were so much better, like these covers. Look at that. Look at that. That is atrocious. What is that even? I asked my brother and sister what kind of book they thought this was, and they were like, oh, like a romance, or maybe a ghost romance. So, terrible covers. Don't think I'm going to keep them. But this is the 4th book. I've just got to, you can see them on my shelf here. Just got to read the 5th one, which in fact I did at the start of January, but I'm still wrapping up December, so let's not jump into the future. I think I gave this 3 stars because I had that nostalgic, I want to give it 3 stars feeling, but the more I think about it, it's probably a 2 or less. I feel so sad about it. Okay, so those were the books that I read at the end of December. Pretty happy with my December reading, but I am also quite happy to leave 2017 behind and move on to 2018. So I know that it's already quite 2018 because I was quite late at filming this because I've been mucking around for the last week. I don't really even know. There's heaps of bookish stuff that I want to talk about, but I just haven't made the time to talk about it. And tomorrow I start my new job, so who knows where I'm going to find the time. But I rearranged my bookshelf to be beautiful, so hopefully that will motivate me to find the time. And hopefully I will see you soon.